Hey guys, today I'm going to be showing you how to change your character's mesh in Survival Game Kit. I'm going to be using a mixed mode character just from the marketplace, but you can follow this video if you have a different character. Something to keep in mind is I'm going to be using version 1.8.9 of Survival Game Kit. In this version, hitboxes were removed in favour of a better system. If you're using an older version of Survival Game Kit, there's a guide that you'll need to follow before you can follow this video, so I'll link that guide in the description. If you're using this version of Survival Game Kit or a newer version, then you don't need to worry about that, you can just follow this video. Another thing to keep in mind is during this video I will be using 3ds Max to edit our character mesh to get his first person arms. If you use Blender or something else, the process should be pretty similar, but that's just something to keep in mind. You will need a 3D modeling program to be able to follow this video. So we're going to get started by going to Survival Game Kit, Character, Mesh, and then open up our UE4 Mannequin Skeleton. And in here we're going to, if you don't have Retarget Manager open already, you can click that. Then we're going to select Rig, select Humanoid Rig, and it should auto-populate this, but if not you can hit Auto Mapping and it will set those for you. Then we're going to select Modify Pose, Use Current Pose, and now we're going to straighten up our arms so that our character's in a T-pose. So if you don't have the bones showing here, you can go Show, Bones, and hit All Hierarchy. So first we're going to try and select this arm like that, and we're going to straighten it out to about here, and do the same the other side. So I'm doing it by 45 degrees, just in case you wanted to copy me exactly. Next we can straighten our arms along the side, so I'll do this by about 25 and select this one. There we go, so that looks about right. So after we've done that, we can hit Modify Pose and then Use Current Pose, and then you want to save this. Next we're going to go to your character's skeleton. For me that's going to be the mixed mode character skeleton. But obviously this would be your custom skeleton if you had one. Then we're going to open the Retarget Manager and we're going to select the Humanoid Rig. Now you can see that these are all set to none now, so if you're using a mixed mode character like me, I'll link a web page that will have a full list of what you need to set the targets for these source bones. If you're using a custom skeleton, you will need to go through your skeleton and find the equivalent bone from the UE4 skeleton. This isn't something I can tell you what it is because people's skeletons have bones with different names, so you would just have to go through and work out which bone is about right for the source bone. You also need to set the advanced bones as well, so these are fingers, and the arm twists. Again, this will be in the web page for mixed mode characters, and for customs characters you will need to work out which bone is correct for you. So I'm going to quickly fill out all of these. There is an auto mapping option, but I don't really recommend it. I've tried it before and it set shoulders to rig to fingers and things like that, so I'd highly recommend not using auto mapping. So once we're done, this is what a filled out one will look like. You can see that spine 1 is spine, spine 2 is spine 1. This is specific for this skeleton, but you kind of get the idea. It's the equivalent bone of the skeleton that you're retargeting. And you also have the advanced ones, so I've gone through and done all the fingers. Keep in mind that not every single one will have an equivalent, so you can see a lot of these are set to none. So don't worry if you don't have an equivalent bone on your skeleton. Next we're going to save this, then we're going to go to Showcase, Survival Game Kit, Animations, Animation Blueprints. We're going to right click our third person anim, and we're going to do retarget anims, duplicate anim blueprints, and retarget. We're going to select our new skeleton. Sometimes it won't show up here, don't worry about that, it's fine. Then we can hit retarget. This might take a moment, but it actually isn't that slow, so it's here now. It's retargeted all of our base animations, and we've got our character animation blueprint. So we're going to go ahead and open that up. Now there's a few things that we need to change in here. So the first one being that we need to go to our anim graph, and there's some layer per bone nodes in here. We're going to need to select them, go to the layer set out, 0, branch filters, 0, and it's set to spine _01. So this is the, if I zoom in here, this is the first spine bone on the character. For me that's called spine with a capital. For you that might be something different. Again, bone names are different on different skeletons, but I'm going to set it to spine. Then there should be another one over here that we're going to select. Do exactly the same thing. I'm just going to paste in spine there, and then we can do Control F. We can click off that node and do Control F. Then we'll do layered blend per bone. And we can hit enter. So we know that we've got them both now. The next thing we're going to need to do is we're going to need to select this fabric node, and in here we've got some bones set. So the first one is right hand, so we need to find our equivalent to right hand. So for me that's right hand. Then we've got left hand, so for me that would be left hand. And then we've got upper left, which is the shoulder bone here. So for me that would be left shoulder, like that. And then next we're going to right click this variable here, and we'll do find references, and we'll double click the set one, and that will take us to here. And you can see we've got a bone name in here as well. So for me that will be right hand with capitals. For you, again, this will be your equivalent right hand bone. And then you can compile and save that. Next we're going to go to our master character, so we're going to go showcase, and then we'll want to go survival game kit, blueprints, characters, then to our master character. We'll go to the viewport, and in here we're going to select our mesh. We're going to change it to our new character mesh. So for me I think it's called Zoe, so like that. Then I'm going to change the anim class to our new one, which is one of these two. I think, yeah, mine's the top one, so yours should be as well. You can see that she's animating now. Something to keep in mind, if you're using an older version of Survival Game Kit, there are hitboxes. I will do a link in the description for the DIY guide for the upgraded damage system, because hitboxes are no longer used in Survival Game Kit. We use the physics mesh instead. But now we've got our character set up in our master character blueprint, so we can compile that. Next we're going to go back to our showcase, then we're going to go to the animations folder, and we're going to do filters. We want animation, we'll tick this on, and then we're going to find animation blueprint and untick this. Then we'll just do Control A, and then we want to right click, retarget animations, and duplicate animation assets and retarget. We'll select our new character skeleton. We're going to hit retarget. This might take a while, so just give it a minute. Once that's done, we can remove the filter that we did. So we want to go to our we'll tick it and then untick it like that, so we can get rid of that filter. And now if we go to content, you can see that I've got all of my animations now retargeted to our new character mesh. You can move these to a better location if you like. This is just the default place it puts them. Some people have said that they get crashes when they do this. If that is the case, going back to the animation folder, you can see that it's divided up into different folders. You may want to do one at a time. not one animation at a time, but one folder at a time instead. That might not cause a crash. I've personally never had a problem with crashes doing this, so my experience with it is pretty limited, but it's something to keep in mind if you do have a problem with that. So next we're going to go to Survival Game Kit, Blueprints, then Items and the item list. And in here you're going to need to select each individual row and go through and replace the equipped item with our new one, with our character shown in the preview. It is a little bit of a long task. You can copy and paste, which will make it a little bit quicker. Something to keep in mind is weapons have their own equipped ones, so just make sure you get the correct equip animation for those. I'm going to be demonstrating with the M4, so I'm just going to set those quickly, but you will need to go through each item and change those equip animations. Something to remember is that most of these items don't use equipped animations, so it's mostly just the holdables, so the ones with holdable entry that you'll need to change, but if you want to, you can go through and change all of them. Next we need to go back to your character's skeleton, so for me that's the Mixamo one. We're going to open that up. We can close the retarget manager now, and first thing we're going to need to do is add our sockets for our weapons. So I'm going to also open up our Survival Game Kit skeleton. So for that, that's in Survival Game Kit, character, mesh, and then it's just in there. So you can see we've got these 4 sockets. You're going to need to recreate those sockets on the your character's skeleton. Very important is that the names need to remain exactly the same with capital letters. So for this video I'm just going to add the M4 socket. So to do that, select the right hand, then we're going to do add socket. I'm going to name it M4A4, and you will need to position them. You can use positions that are on the included skeleton, but they might not work well for your character, so I'm just going to put this in roughly the right place. And if you want to check to see if it's going to look okay, you can right click the socket, add preview asset, and I'm just going to search M4A4, and I can put that in there. So it's a bit funky, so we're going to rotate it 180 degrees, and then again by 90, like that. You can spend a little bit more time making sure this is precise, but I'm just doing this quickly. So something to keep in mind is if you ever have a problem where the gun's facing the wrong way or something, you can adjust the socket in your skeleton so it faces the correct way. So that's our socket for our M4 done. So we can save this now. Next we're going to move on to our first person animation blueprint. So we want to go showcase, then to our animations, animation blueprints, and we're going to right click our first person anim and retarget it. We'll select our new skeleton and hit retarget. Once that's done, it should bring you to the content folder, but that doesn't matter because now we're going to export your character's mesh. So you're going to want to select the skeletal mesh, and we're going to export it out of the engine. This is where you're going to need a 3D modeling program so that we can cut out the body and the head, so we just have the arms remaining. So to do that, we'll do asset actions, export, and you can just select a folder of your choice. So now I've got 3ds Max open, I'm just going to import our character that we just exported. So for me, I just put it to the desktop, and we'll hit OK. So now we've got our character. The first thing we're going to want to do is, this might not always be the case, but you'll have this top level param in the hierarchy panel. You're going to need to delete that. So we've just got our skeleton now and our character skeletal mesh. So what we'll do is with our character skeletal mesh, we're going to select it. I'm going to go down to the editable mesh, I'm going to click hold and yes. Then I'm going to select the elements, and I'm just going to start deleting elements from the character, making sure that we don't delete the arms. So we can just highlight all of this, make sure there's no random bits floating around. That looks good. So now we can go back to our skin level, and we can do Control A, and now we're ready to export. So we can go to export, export selected, desktop, and I'll just click on this to get the name, and I'll put underscore first person like that, and then we can save. And you shouldn't need to change anything in here. Make sure you've got smoothing groups ticked, because sometimes that's unchecked, and we can hit OK. If you're using another program, sorry, I only use 3ds Max, so you may have to look up how to export skeletal meshes in your specific program. So now I'm back in the engine. I'm going to import our new first person arms, so we'll click on this and we'll bring it in. We'll use skeletal mesh and import mesh, and we're using the our character's skeleton, so we can just hit import. And now we've got our arms in here. The material should load once these compilers are done. If not, we can just use the, we'll open them up and we'll change the material to our Zoe character here, and now we've got our material applied. So next we're going to go to our retargeted first person animation blueprint. So to do that, we'll go content, we'll search for first, and it's this one here. It's showing the full character because we haven't changed it yet, but we can open that up and we can change our Zoe character to our first person arms there, so we can tell from the thumbnail, and we can apply to asset as well. And now in here we're just going to do the same thing we did in the third person blueprint. So we're going to go to our anim graph, we'll find any layer blend nodes and go to details, and you can see it's set to spine 01. We'll change it to spine. I'm just going to copy that in case I need to use it again. We'll do a search just to double check to make sure that there's no more. Layered blend. Okay, I've spelled that wrong. Okay, so there's only one in this blueprint, so that's fine. And we're going to do the same thing we did before to our fabric node. Change right hand to right hand. Tip bone will be left hand, so we want our left hand, which is here. And then this is our shoulder bone, so left shoulder, and that's what it's called in this skeleton. So we've set that now. We can have a quick look. We need to change the setting for this, so we'll find references, go to the set left hand transform, and again over here we're going to change this to hand right, like that. Again, this is your right hand bone name. For me it's called hand right, for you it might be something else. So once that's done, we can compile and save this. Next we're going to go back to our master character, so we can close this out. Go survival game kit, let's get rid of this search. Blueprints, characters, then master character. Something to keep in mind is I'm doing this all in the master character, so it will affect the survival character as well. If you say wanted to have different character meshes for different survival character variations, you would be doing everything that I'm doing in the master character instead in the survival character or your other survival character blueprints. But for the sake of this video, I'm just doing it in the master character. So we're going to open that up. We're going to select our first person viewport mesh. We can double click it to just bring us to the viewport. And in here, I'm just going to change it to visible for a moment so we can see them. Our arms are on the ground for some reason. If that is the case for you, you can push them up to about the same height as her arms. Then we're going to scroll up. We're going to change our arms to the arms we just made. So I'll search for Zoe and select the Zoe arms. Then our anim class we want to change to one of the first person ones, so we'll just select the top one. It's not that one, so we'll select the bottom one. We can see that it's now working. They're still a bit low, so I'm just going to move them up a little bit like that. And then we want to untick visible because we don't want them to be running around in the game, so we'll untick those. So next we can test out and see how it's looking in the game. I'm just going to hit play and I'm running around. I'm going to pick up this M4 and see if the equipped animation is working, and it is attaching, so we can hit that. And you can see it's not quite how we'd want it to be. If you get this, it means that basically your character's skeleton is trying to place an animation that's not meant for it. This is what happens. This is because we haven't gone to our M4 yet and changed all of the animations out for our new ones. So if you in the future ever see this happening, it's because your animations aren't set in the weapon blueprint that you've picked up. So that's something to remember. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go to our holdables folder, and I'm just going to do the M4 for this video. You will need to go through and change the blueprint, axe, hammer, all of the weapons, all of the ranged weapons and melee ones. So I'll show you how to do that for the M4. We're going to open its blueprint, and there are two main parts that have the animation settings. So the first one is in ranged weapon settings, animations. So we've got these are weapon animations, we don't need to worry about those, but we've got ranged weapon animations in here. If we click this drop down, it brings up all of these animations that we need to now change over to our retargeted ones. To do that, it's quite easy because they have the same names. So you just click on them. We can see this is ADS Idle Rifle. So I can see this has got my character in the thumbnail. It's called the same name, so we're going to change it to that. And we're just going to go through and change these. So this is BS ADS Rifle, and we can see our character there with the same name. So we're going to change that. And I'm just going to go through and do each one of those. So you kind of get the idea. Some of them might have a 1 after them, but we can see that it's the first person, it's the same animation. So just gradually go through these. You'll need to go through this whole list, but then there are also another set of animations. So once you've finished all of those, we want to go down to holdable settings, and there's an animation here. So we have two unequipped animations. We're going to make sure that these are changed over to unequipped item, like that. And then we also have this drop down for holdable animations. You will need to do exactly the same thing as I just showed you, but in here. One that a lot of people seem to miss is our aim offset. We need to make sure that's changed over to the rifle. And another one that a lot of people seem to miss is in the ranged weapon animations. People tend to miss the ADS aim offset, which you can't. There we go. So I'm not going to go through every single one of these animations because you get the idea. We're just changing it to the new one for our character, but you need to go through all of these and change them all. So once you're done, you should see your character's thumbnail and all of the animations here. So this is the ranged weapon animations, all of them here, and then scrolling down again, we've got holdable animations, and you can see I've changed them all in here as well. So if you ever get a problem where your character's exploding, like I showed you earlier, it's because you've either got one of these animations are missing or wrong, and you need to change it over to one of your new character animations. So now that that's done, I can compile that and save it. Something else to keep in mind is if you've created any new weapons or holdables, you will need to change them as well. So any holdables, any weapons in the holdables folder, you will need to change over. One other trick that I'll show you with the animations is if you have a weapon, say that's very similar to the M4 and it's using all the same animations, you can actually right click and copy this holdable animations and then open its holdable blueprint and paste them into there. You can do the same with the ranged weapon animations as well. So this might save you some time if you've got weapons that are using the same animations. So just something I thought I'd let you know. There's one other trick you can use to make this a little bit shorter. You can actually copy and paste the holdable animations variable and the range weapon animations. So if you have a weapon that uses the same animations, you can paste those in and you don't have to go through and do it all over again. So there's a couple of more things that we need to do. Earlier on in the video I told you to move the first person character arms. I was actually wrong, so we need to go back to our survival game kit. I'm going to get rid of this search quickly. Then we go blueprints, character, master character, and in here we're going to want to make sure that our spring arm is set to 000 on the location. Same for our first person camera. And then for our first person viewport mesh, this is going to require some tweaking because the default character's arms are quite big. His mesh is lower down. This character's arms are smaller, so they're actually need to be raised up a little bit. For me, I found that about -155 was about right for the height. But if your arms are too high or too low, you can come in here, select the viewport mesh, and play with this value a little bit until you get them to the right height. I can't tell you what that will be exactly because it will depend on your character's mesh, but that's the value you can play with to adjust that. I did make a mistake earlier actually as well in the retargeted first person character. This is not the retargeted one, this is the retargeted one. I actually named this hand right, it's right hand, just in case you're following along with the Mixamo character. So you do need to change that. If you've already set that to the correct thing, then that's okay. So I'll compile and save that. The last major thing we need to do is we need to set up our hitboxes. Now, Survival Game Kit now uses its bone names for hitboxes. So for this, I'm going to go to our blueprints folder and search for, actually we will go to other, then we'll go libraries, and we'll go to our inventory functions, and in here we'll go to is player hitbox. Now in here there's a array, so we'll select that node, and in here is all of the hitbox names and hitbox types. So what this essentially is basically any bone that's hit that has spine in its name, the system considers a chest hitbox. So and we've done this for all of them. So arms, any bone name with the word arm in is considered an arm hitbox, and so on. So clavicle is considered chest, hands are considered hands. The same thing goes for legs, calf, thigh, neck is considered head, head is considered head, and so on. If your bones are named differently in some way, you will need to either add new entries to this. So I can't really think of any examples, but say your arm's named something like chair, you would put chair in here instead, and any bone that's hit with the name with the word chair in it will be considered an arms hitbox. So you don't need to put every bone in here. As you can see, I haven't got enough, so this covers all of our arms bones because all of them have the word arm in their name. So that covers all of our arms. The same thing goes for our fingers. I've got one for index, ring, pinky and thumb, and that covers all of our fingers. So this is where you would add in your additional bones if you have any. Chances are these should cover most skeletons, so you may not need to add to this at all. And then the hitbox is just how the damage system decides what damage to use for that hit bone. So this is something to keep in mind, but chances are you won't need to change anything in here. One last thing I wanted to mention, it's not really related to Survival Game Kit, more towards retargeting, but sometimes you can get distortions in your character's fingers and elbows and things like that. One way you can try and resolve those is going to your skeleton. Down here you can enable show retarget options, and you get these options here. By default these are actually all set as animation. Some people have better results, setting everything in here apart from the root. So for this skeleton it's hips as the root, but setting all of these to skeleton, that can sometimes give better results when the character's animating. This isn't a guaranteed fix, but it's something that I thought I'd let you guys know because it can improve things. And sometimes you might not always want to do this. Sometimes this might make it look worse, but you can mess about with it and see what kind of results you can get. A lot of the time changing the fingers to this option, to the skeleton option, will give better results when the fingers are animating. So I just wanted to mention that. Once that's done, you're all set up now. You will still have to go through all your weapons and make sure you've set the animations like I showed you with the M4, and you may have to adjust your sockets on your skeleton to line your guns up so that they're straight and face the correct rotation. But that's pretty much it, guys. Thank you for watching. If you have any questions or comments, leave a comment, and I'll link our Discord in the description as well if you want to go ahead and join that. Thank you for watching.